Protest organisers in Hong Kong estimate 1 million people have rallied against the proposed extradition bill. They fear the new law would allow political opponents to be sent to the Chinese mainland for trial. Well, if the estimates of the organisers are confirmed, it would be the biggest demonstration in the territory since it was handed back to Beijing in 1997. Rosie Wright and the team of theCUBE have more.
Should officials be able to extradite wanted criminals to stand trial in China? Hundreds of thousands of protesters said, no, we don't want this law to come into place. We've seen countless numbers of photos like this, where the people are just too vast to be able to count. Now, there have been conflicting reports. The police say 250,000, around that number of people took to the streets. But the protest organisers say over 1 million took part. That would be 1 out of 7 of the population of Hong Kong coming out and saying, we will not stand for this. Seen lots of photographs like this. What you'll notice is lots of people are holding umbrellas. That's become a symbol back from protests in 2014 of pro-democracy, and loads of photographs, partly because there were just so many people saying, no, we're chanting 2 things. Stand down Carrie Lam. She's the chief executive of Hong Kong. More from her in a minute. But also no extradition. We spoke to one of the protesters. My colleague Shauna had a chat with Alan. He lives in Hong Kong and he took part in protests yesterday. This is why. This is what he had to say.
We protested yesterday because we are against the proposed amendment to the extradition law, and the Hong Kong government is not listening to the mass majority of the Hong Kong people. The government used the Taiwan murder case as an excuse to put forward such an amendment, but in fact, what they are proposing in the amendment cannot achieve such intention. What they're trying to do is, in fact, to tear down the firewall between Hong Kong and China so that they can extradite anyone who will set foot in the city back to China.
And it was that cry, no extradition, that saw those hundreds of thousands of people take to the streets. Now, at one point, particularly at the end of the protest, as it got darker, you can see there were some clashes. But there's been a response from Carrie Lee, who said this: it's a very important law. Basically, I haven't listened to you protesters. I think it's important that you have the right to do so. But the bill is going ahead. Why? It will ensure that justice prevails and that Hong Kong meets internal obligations on cross-border and transnational crime. As far as they're concerned, the protesters, for their voice, we've seen them, but we're not listening.
Rosie Wright in theCUBE there. Thank you. Well, to talk on this further, I'm joined now by Helen Davidson, who's a reporter with The Guardian and is in Hong Kong following the protest. Well, thanks for taking time to talk to us here on Good Morning Europe. Well, this started out as a peaceful demonstration and then, escalated with 1 million people coming onto the streets. What are people there telling you what they want?
It was a very clear call for the Lam-led government to withdraw this bill. There was widespread concern among the many people that I spoke to that this bill is sort of the last straw in Beijing's encroachments into Hong Kong. People are very worried about what it would mean for their freedom of speech, and also about what it would mean for political opponents of China who do take refuge in Hong Kong. Claudia Mo, a leading opposition figure, told me that she believes this bill would actually legitimise Chinese abduction in Hong Kong. And 1 million people came out in the streets yesterday to agree with her.
Chinese state media have accused foreign forces of fueling and fomenting the protests, saying people have been misled over the proposed changes to this extradition bill. Do you think that people are, trying to make a larger point here to Beijing?
I think there is. I think people are, very proud of what Hong Kong stands for and the freedoms that they have here. And this bill really does represent for them the Hong Kong acquiescing to Beijing's orders. Lam has been very adamant that this is not an order from Beijing, but that, frankly, is not being believed, not among the people that I'm speaking to. People were out in the streets all day yesterday and last night, and they were very clearly calling for an end to this bill. And as far as the foreign influence, I didn't see anything that looked like people were being misled. A lot of speakers actually sort of referenced that, and they said, that the government is saying that we're being misled, but we know what's going on. Don't believe the government. there were some attempts by agitators to rile up the crowd, but people really pushed back on that, and they said, no, this is supposed to be peaceful. We're marching, and until the permission for the march ended at midnight and police started to move people on, it was incredibly peaceful.
Well, if these reports are to be believed regarding the size and the scale of this demonstration, more than 1 million people taking to the streets, this will be the biggest protest since, Britain handed the territory back to China in 1997. But yet, according to reports, there've hardly been any mention of this on the mainland.
Yes, I don't think this has really gotten through onto the mainland. I did see those reports this morning. But, I mean, it's all over the local press here, and it's obviously all around the world as well. It's hard to know exactly how much information about this rally has gotten through to people in mainland China. We heard this week that the Washington Post and the Guardian were added to the list of international media outlets that are no longer available in China without a VPN. So, it's incredibly hard to tell just how much this has cut through, but Lam has come out this morning and said that, this will not be making a difference and they will be pushing ahead with it.
Helen Davidson, thank you for joining us here on Good Morning Europe.